Rokpool.com. Relive the music.
Right, what you're looking at here is one of the very first posters by the prime UK psychedelic poster team who designed rock and psychedelic posters between 1966 and 69 for a company called Osiris Visions. This was one of the very first ones they did. It's called UFO Coming, and it was advertising a club called UFO Club, which was known by the hippies as UFO Unlimited Freakout, basically. And it was a club in Tottenham Court Road, London, and it was in the basement of an Irish club called the Blarney Club, and it was held every Friday for about a year, something like that. And unfortunately, it was exposed by the News of the World, and there was drugs talked about, and the Irish management chucked them out in the end. And they had to go to the Roundhouse, and it was called UFO Mark II at the Roundhouse. Anyway, Hatch and the Coloured Coat, who designed this, were Michael English and Nigel Weymouth, and they met in late 1966 at a shop called Granny Takes a Trip, which was owned or partly run by Nigel Weymouth, basically. And they started to design psychedelic posters in London for clubs like UFO Club, which were the major psychedelic venues, along with Middle-earth, UFO Mark II, etc., etc. This one was one of their very first posters. It's called UFO Coming, and obviously means acts coming to UFO Club in summer 1967, June the 16th and June the 23rd to be precise. And the particular acts advertiser are the Crazy World of Arthur Brown, Soft Machine, Liverpool Love Festival, who are all like psychedelic bands at the time. Hatch and the Coloured Coat designed approximately 30 posters, most of which are incredibly rare now, and some of them are very expensive, like this one here. 4 of their posters were designed for the Savile Theatre in central London, which was leased in 67-68 for a year by the Beatles manager Brian Epstein, and in order to make it pay for the money that he shelled out for the lease, he had to get major acts in every week, and Hatch and the Coloured Coat designed 4 posters, a series of 4 posters for this club, and this is one of them. All posters have, all 4 have one thing in common, so you can easily tell a Savile Theatre poster. They've all got these doves on each side, but in each one the design in the middle is different. This one is a particularly interesting one and valuable because it's an original concert poster for the Jimi Hendrix Experience in August, on August the 27th. And also appearing at various other dates at the Savile Theatre were Georgie Fame, who ran the Blue Flames in the 60s, Eric Burton, who was of course the lead singer with the Animals, Denny Lane, Zoot Money in the Big Roll Band, who became Dan Talien's Chariot, Crazy World of Arthur Brown, the famous song that he did, Fire, and he came on top of the Pops with a helmet with cotton wool soaked in lighter fuel, and lit the lighter fuel, came on stage, sung Fire, which would be highly illegal and against health and safety today, but it was much more interesting in those days. So that's that one. Also by Hatch and the Coloured Coat. They are the premier British designers, probably slightly better than Martin Sharp. Alan Aldridge was another British designer, Mike McKinnery was another one, but Hatch, in my opinion, were the best. This is another Hatch piece, and this is called CIA UFO. Once again, it's for UFO Club in Tottenham Court Road, London, the basement of the Blarney Club, and on Fridays. And if you look down here, you can see one of the interesting parts of the hippie scene at the time. Before psychedelic posters came into being, posters used to be called boxing-style posters, and all they had on them was just the words and a picture of a guy's face who was appearing. But when the hippies came in and LSD took hold and psychedelia became the dominant fashion of the time, everything changed, and you got these beautiful, wonderful, colourful splashes right across London to bring springtime to a city that had been bombed only 15 years before that. Right, this one, as you can see, the event, the dance or the concert was called CIA, which was the American Intelligence Services course versus UFO, and there it is, CIA versus UFO. But if you look at it another way, it spells giants, Giants. So it's a kind of optical illusion poster. And the idea of all this strange psychedelic writing was that the average Joe in the street would pass it by and not bother to read it, whereas the guy that they really wanted to come to the concert, the committed hippie who was into psychedelia, into the Pink Floyd, into all the early bands of the time, would actually think, wow, what a fantastic poster, what's it saying, sit there, work it all out, and go to the concert. And that's the kind of guy they wanted at the concert. So this one here, CIA UFO, or if you look at it another way, Giants, as I say, was for the Pink Floyd, appearing on July 28th at UFO Club. And it's in my opinion, it's one of the most beautiful and nicest psychedelic posters that Hapshash and the Coloured Coat did. Oh, only been printed twice. This is the Osiris Visions version, which was the original version, and it was also printed by the Chelsea Publishing Company in the early 70s, who were New York based. But this is the Osiris Visions version is the one you want, because that's the original printing. Probably printed around 3 times in the 60s by Osiris Visions, but because we don't know which print came first, each of the 3 printings, which were all in the 1960s, all by Osiris Visions, is now counted as a first printing, and this is one of them here.
Rokpool.com. We live the music.